Hi, how's it going? I had a bit of time in between bits of work, and I wanted to just put down a few thoughts, take it as light entertainment. These are just my thoughts on how to learn. This video is going to be broadly tech-based, although the same concepts can apply to other topics. I also want to note that this is not exhaustive. These are just my immediate thoughts at the current time, and they may not even be the best analogies for what I'm trying to express. But having said that, I've got a cup of tea. If you're ready to sit down and be entertained, here are my thoughts. So, if you're not aware, my day job is I'm a teacher. I teach things. I'm a tutor. I teach tech topics. And I also recreationally learn things. So, I see a lot of students and I see a lot of people sort of making the same mistakes. I want to help them out. I want to sort of summarize my thoughts on how to learn things. And this is going to come in stages. This is going to be very stream of consciousness, very undirected. But let's begin at the beginning. If you want to learn something, I'll say it like this: you need to get your mind right before you get your grind right. When I was first learning programming, I went through stages where I was that guy. Do you know what I mean? I've got to do this. I've got 3 top 10 programming languages, 3 tutorials per week, 3 projects per tutorial per week. Like, these goblins, man. I was one of these absolute code gremlins who would just go on LeetCode and, I've got to do 20 problems, top 10 problems, job interview problems, whatever. Like, with I would say a very scattered, disoriented frame of mind. And that makes it very hard to actually learn things. As I get along, I sometimes think, back in the day, I was younger, I had more mental plasticity, I could learn things, I was more adaptable. And that's actually not true, because if I really solidly reflect on how I was growing up, I probably had a bit too much mental plasticity. I would do random things which were not solving problems in a direct way, and I don't mean that in a good way. Here's my description of me as a teenager. If you visualize a person's mind as like an attic, they have some things in there. But definitely me, this was me, a lot of things in there were jumbled up and out of place, and there was like mess that just needed to be removed. Along the way, as I've gotten more experienced, and I want to say gotten smarter, a lot of that getting smart has not necessarily been adding new knowledge. I mean, yeah, for sure, I've added new knowledge, but the largest component of it has been simply psychologically, mentally calming myself down, removing things from my attic, taking out the trash. You'll notice that I speak very slowly in my tutorials, and there's a reason for that. This is a thing that when I speak, it sounds slow to me, but hopefully because I'm saying new things, it sounds normal. Like I'm speaking at the rate that I want a person to absorb the information that I'm saying. Let me give one more example of getting your mind right. The other day, I was just sitting around doing a bit of recreational learning. I just had a discrete math textbook. It was nothing too exciting. I was just doing exercises, and there was nothing exciting about these exercises. It was, even the most hardcore mathematician would find this dull. It was physically copy down a sentence, recognize the form of the argument in the sentence, and then replicate that argument form with another sentence. 90% of this was physically writing things down on paper. No brain work involved, no brain gym, no mental gymnastics, nothing. But I found, this is going to sound strange, maybe a little silly, but I found as I was physically writing things down, it was like reducing the metronome speed of my head, and in a good way. It was as if the lower faculties of my mind were consumed with the act of physically doing something, a task, And that freed up my conscious mind to think of other things. It's my belief that a large component of quote unquote being smart or learning is actually about reining in the mind and keeping it controlled and not jumping around, just taking it slow and being happy with myself as a human being on planet Earth. I know that sounds super silly, but that's my thoughts. Okay, so another point is I would sort of describe knowledge as being like food, okay? Food's great. I love food. So good. But I can't have too much of it. And there's only so much I can take in at one time. So let's say right here on the screen, I've got this sine curve. Let's say this sine curve represents a large body of knowledge that I want to absorb and deal with, be able to replicate. This is like operating at an elite level, capturing all of this nuance. So let's say I start up and I take in some knowledge. I can represent, I'm operating at a basic level now. There we have it. But in that one sitting where I'm working on that, I'll find that I can't absorb more than a certain amount. If I take in more than a certain amount and I'm not using it, or I'm not giving myself a break to internalize it, there's only so much I can fit in my head. Maybe you're a 10x programmer. Maybe you were born and your first words were hello world. But that definitely wasn't me. I've said this before, I'm maybe a 3/4 programmer. It takes me longer than average to learn things. But once I have them, I have them. So I've done that. That's my first sitting. Then I'll go away. I'll sleep on it. And when I come back, I'm not starting from nothing. I've digested this food, okay? So the next time I eat something, I'm adding on to what I've already got, okay? Now we're doing better. But we can't push. Time is a resource. If we don't space things out properly, we're not going to get the same returns. So take a break. And then when I come back, I can add on a little bit to what I've got. And I'm starting to capture more of the nuance now. But every time I do this, I'm not starting from zero. I've given myself time to get skilled, and so on and so on. And gradually we get there. This is the way I think about life, by the way, is in terms of an infinite series representation. But you need to take it one step at a time. Give yourself time. Be happy with yourself. It physically takes time to learn things. So there we have it. So one thing I've learned is that in the early stages, you will be putting in more work, and it will take you more time to get the same result in the early stages. Back when I was working, tutoring at after-school places, the largest classes we had were the early classes, where they were dealing with negative numbers and adding fractions. And then, as we got beyond that stage, the number of students dropped off in those more advanced classes, because it turns out, if you put a lot of work in at the beginning, then you don't just learn negative numbers and adding fractions. You're also learning problem-solving skills which extend to advanced topics, if you do it the right way. So I'll say that again. In the early stages, you are not just learning facts. You're learning the problem-solving skills and philosophy that will extend to the more advanced stages. And so whereas it's perfectly fine if you feel like you need to focus on facts in the beginning, that's okay, but you just need to be aware that you got to be really grinding in those first, that first hour of a tutorial or something. You've got to really be pushing yourself. So in the early stages, you need to slow down. You need to take mad notes, summarize things, rewrite them, write little essays on the core philosophy of whatever framework you're using. Because very rarely in tech is a topic random. Tech topics are beautiful. They're logical. I mean, yes, okay, worst case scenario. Let's say, I don't know, OpenGL or something. I'm learning OpenGL. Worst case scenario is something is not logical. There's not a logical reason for it. But at the very least, there may be a historical reason for it. And at the very least, it may be some historical reason that if I learn this right now and I understand this right now, it will extend to later topics, or it will extend to other APIs. Or it'll just get me, like it might just be a completely alien thing and I just need to learn it, but then later on when I learn graphics programming in other situations, it'll be the same. So trying to understand the core philosophy will really help, as well as, I'm sure this gets said, I don't know if it gets said enough, but as well as bringing in all of your existing knowledge on common sense and problem solving. Because if we go back to the analogy of replicating the sine curve right now, when I put this y equals x, that already is a great first approximation. That's doing a good job of approximating it on a restricted domain. So I would sort of visualize this as I come in and I'm bringing in all my pre-existing problem-solving skills, and I understand the core philosophy of what the API is trying to do. That will get me a lot of the way already. Okay, so once you move past learning the core philosophy of what you're doing, you're in the early stages or whatever, something that's really going to help you as well as that is linking topics, seeing how things slot into what you already know. As an example, and this isn't, like I'm not trying to talk about myself too much, but I'll just give this example. I've been learning React recently, just for fun, for no other reason. And initially I learned React years ago, coming in with zero experience in most web development. This is back when COVID hit. I was just, paid to be unemployed basically. And I thought, what am I going to do? I'm unemployed. I guess I'll be a web developer. I guess I'll be a front-end developer because that's what all the YouTube internet marketing people were doing. And so I came in with basically no experience with Node, no experience with JavaScript, maybe half an hour of experience with JavaScript. And it just seemed random and confusing. And there's a reason for that. Whereas recently I've been learning React and I'm coming in from my web GPU experience. So I know about Webpack, I know about live server, all these sorts of concepts, they're not new to me. And as I learn React, I'm actually focusing on, okay, I can see how this slots in with things that I already know. And I'm focusing on the new concepts. Plus I've done a bit of recreational web development by this stage. So now I understand sort of how it was built around the philosophy of, to fit in with pre-existing philosophies of web development and all of that. And it makes so much more sense and things are so much easier when you link things in with what you already know. I know that's a bit difficult in web development because there is sort of a broad base that you need to cover before things start linking up, but to whatever extent possible, just think about that. Okay, now the last one, and look, I'm not a swearer. I don't swear. I don't say any swears, but I will in this case for comedic purposes. Last point, you gotta fuck shit up. You know what I mean? Okay, if you're learning something, you've got to make it your own. If you're learning something and it's not fun, you're doing it wrong. Case in point, and I'm really not trying to talk about myself too much, but I'm just giving this as an example. I've been learning React, and this is just a standard React course, pretty similar to any other course you would see. One of the projects was build a digital business card. This is what we have. It's got to look like this. It's got to have a person's face. It's got to look like a human, have a name, all of that stuff. Okay, so here's what I made. There we go. That's my business card. Ta-da! I made the project. So I'll just pause there. You can read that if you like. And the point I'm trying to get at is if I didn't, okay, so let's admit, I'm probably not going to get a job as a front-end developer. That's probably not on the cards for me. But if I don't make it fun, how much am I going to learn? Answer is 0, because I'm not going to want to come back and do this. The way I see it, the purpose of watching tutorials, that's good, by the way. Watching tutorials is good. But the purpose of watching tutorials is to stop watching tutorials. Okay? When I'm working on a tutorial, I'll roughly see what they're talking about, and I'll probably get to a point where I think, okay, I can pause the video, I can try that out first. If what I do fails, well, the internet still exists. I'm still on planet Earth. I can still look things up and then come back to the tutorial, see how the online person did it, compare, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing, but you're going to get out of it what you put in. So there's no purpose to just follow every step of the tutorial. And by the way, this applies to my own tutorials as well. I love it when people get to a certain point and then stop watching, but then they come up on the Discord and they show me, hey, I took your tutorial and I ran with it and this is what I made. I love that. Because to a certain extent, every tutorial needs to streamline a little bit. Every tutorial at some point always needs to be taking critical decisions out of the learner's hands, because we can't reinvent the universe from scratch. I mean, we can try. I'm learning assembly at the moment for fun. But to a certain point, for instance, on this tutorial here, things like which font to use, which color to use, some of the layouts, this is sort of given initially, and I understand why, but I think a lot of the learning has to be also those initial decisions of what to do, how to set up, how to define a problem, not even how to solve a problem, but how to define a problem so that it can be solved. And I'm probably overthinking it. This is just a simple make a business card thing, but just taking ownership of what's being learned is super important. And I want to promote that more because I think it pays dividends. As another example, tell me, how many times have you heard this? Okay, we're learning React. We are going to make an Airbnb clone. Okay, that may well be. But how about a Ghost BNB clone? I get it. This is sort of, whatever. This is sort of cringe. But I would much rather just do my own thing than be dependent on a tutorial series. As cool as they are. Oh my goodness. I don't want to be one of those people, follow every tutorial. I did it. Oh, you said do it like this. I did it like this. I'm a web developer. I made all the right decisions because that's what was online. Next minute. Oh, what happened? Why did I get replaced by ChatGPT? Oh, okay. I'm sort of mucking around there, but there is a serious purpose to it. Yeah, this is sort of messed up, this image height, but I don't particularly care. That's fine. Okay, so in summary, learning is good. You should do it. In order to do it, be a calm person. Seriously, be a calm person. Find a way to modify things so that they are fun for you. If something's not fun, change it up. If you're following along with the series and it's not fun, find a different series. If you are following a teacher and they tell you that I don't know why it is, it's just random, lol, then find another teacher or teach yourself. And yeah, I really hope you're doing well. I recorded this. If this video sounds strange, I recorded it before, but I was using the wrong microphone, so the audio quality was off. And I promise that when I have more time, when things lighten up a little bit, I'll be heading back to some more serious tutorials. By the way, if you're watching my screen, there's this face over here. You might be wondering what this screenshot is. Did you know there's a guy who goes out to the desert and he captures snakes and scorpions and things, and he stings himself with it? How crazy is that? This clown, man, if he came to Australia, he would be dead. But this popped up on my feed, and he's got this wasp, and he's talking about how this wasp will paralyze an adult human in 5 minutes. And then he looks at the camera with a straight face, and he says, quote, "I'm Coyote Peterson, and I'm about to enter the sting zone." And I just thought that was so funny. So I'm holding on to that. That's a funny meme. And I'm keeping this as a metaphor for students who start their assignments at the last minute. Who could have done this to myself? So 100% don't, third point, don't start your assignments at the last minute. It will not end nicely for you. Again, thank you. Thank you for watching. I hope you had fun. It's a nice little afternoon here, and all the best. Happy learning. I'll see you again soon. Bye.